The new Warhammer Underworlds quad boxes are now up for pre-order, so just like the last set, today in this video, we're going to be going over all those boxes. We're going to be going over all of those warbands, how you can use them in your games of Warcry, and we're going to be doing some list building as to the best kinds of lists that you can build with just that box to get you jumping right in. If you are looking for details on those old boxes, I'm going to put the link up there to my previous video where I do the exact same thing for those warbands, so that's something that I think you guys should check out right after this one. If you're watching this and you are one of the 30% of people who's managed to make it more than 30 seconds into my video, which means you actually care what it's about. So if you want to see more videos like this, there are a couple of things that you can do. You can give me a like, you can give me a subscribe, put a comment down in the comment section below, tell me what you think about the video itself. And if you want to give me some more support, you can come and join me on Discord, you can join my Patreon, you can join me as a channel member right here on YouTube. But for those of you who are already watching, a big thank you for myself, and let's get back to the video. Okay, so we are going to start with the order box, Seekers in Shadow. Now this contains Xandire's Truthseekers, the Shadeborn, the Starblood Stalkers, and Elthain's Soulraid. We're going to start with Xandire's Truthseekers. We're going to go right in there. This is one of... Now, this warband has basically been everywhere. You've been able to pick up Calthea Xandire in a myriad of places. She was in all sorts of different box sets. The original Warhammer Underworlds box set. She was in those Hachette magazines that you can pick up. She was in the Warcry starter set. So she's basically been everywhere. But for you guys who didn't manage to pick her up, here she is. Xandire has been and will continue to be one of the premier allies that Order can put forward. The reason for that is because she has her coordinated strike ability, where she gets to pick a whole bunch of guys and they basically get a free move or attack action. So she will always be good, and it's almost worth picking this up just for her. Some other interesting things in the warband, we have Luxa Stormrider and we have Taros. They're not so great. Taros is basically overpointed. 115 points for a 6-wound model isn't amazing. Luxa is very, very average. Dorez, though, Dorez is not bad. 165 points for above average wounds for that amount of points that you're paying. 3/5 damage profile, strength 5, and mini annihilator. If you were to pick this up, I'd recommend that you definitely bring Calthea and think about bringing Dorez. They might be the guys that you want. Okay, next up we have the Shadeborn with Scythel Shadestalker, Drusilla Viscerax, Vasilla Umbriel, and Sarlacc Greyblood. I can say words. They're not great, let's say. They kind of suffer from that weird Elvish profile of being toughness 3. They do have 10 wounds unlike other Daughters of Cain fighters, so that is definitely a plus for them. But they're sitting around about 100, 115 points. They don't really have the range like something like Yildren Riverblades would have. So I would recommend, if you were going for Daughters of Cain, this isn't possibly the place that you would want to start. In terms of interesting abilities, they do get a bunch of Daughters of Cain abilities themselves. They get the basic Bathed in Blood. Their special abilities are Gloom Web Hex, so you're going to be subtracting a whole bunch of attacks from enemy fighters, and then on top of that they have a big old quad Shadow Ambush from the leader, which is a teleport. Now you get this teleport better elsewhere. Daughters of Cain have just recently got access to the newest warband in their roster, and they have a fighter that can teleport, and it's not a quad. So the Shadestalkers, in essence, I think that's going to be one to miss. On the other end of the spectrum, though, we have the Starblood Stalkers. They definitely have things going for them. They got Kixi Taka the Diviner, Clacktrot, Huachi, Otterpatl, Top, and Zepik. These guys see play. These guys see play competitively anyway. Specifically, Otterpatl, Top, and Zepik, because they are 3 very, I say cheapish chaff units that most Order warbands can just ally in. Kixi Taka himself is a wizard, which is absolutely fine. His special ability is Imbue with a 0 energy, which will give +1 to the move and toughness characteristics of all friendly fighters, not just those of his warband within 9 inches of his fighter. Of course, you have Clacktrot, who has Tearing Bite, so for 175 points he can suddenly spike real high when you get high triples, and he's fairly durable as well with that toughness of 5 and 28 wounds. I think overall the weakest one out of the bunch is probably Huachi, because he doesn't really do anything that Otterpatl, Top, or Zepik can't do, and is much more expensive. So I think you could definitely go a lot worse than taking this warband as like the core of something, or as some allies in order to get some more bodies in. Finally, for this box, we have Elthain's Soulraid. You get Elthain Ill-Fated, Fioran, Doing Claw, Tamael, and Spinefin. These guys are actually alright. Tamael and Furion? Fuiran? I think that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, those two aren't bad. they're legitimately okay. Furion, especially for 120 points with 16 wounds, 4324 profile, that's pretty good. Tamael's range attack isn't bad. The nice thing about Elthain is he is 165 points, and we're going to be directly comparing him to an Ishiran Soul Render for 185. Now, for those 20 points, you basically get a very similar profile, but you get one of the very few nets in order. He does get Soul Net, pick up guy within 3 inches on a 3 or more, can't move or disengage. That works very well with his 3-inch range on his fish attack. So he gets to very safely use his movement 5, get within 3 inches, push an attack action in there, throw a net, lock down a guy. So I think Elthain overall isn't bad. Again, Furion and Tamael, I quite like them. The pets, you get Doing Claw and you get Spinefin. Spinefin is not so good. It does have movement 12, but again, that 6 wounds and 80 points isn't great. Doing Claw, though, he can hit. He's a little bit expensive, if you ask me. But you know what? There is something to be said about Toughness 6. And a Strength 5 and a 2-5 profile is something that you don't really see in other Order Bladeborn. So maybe at a pinch, you would want to bring Doing Claw. But overall, it's Elthain, Tamael, and Furion the ones that you have to be looking at. How do we list build with these? So putting all of this together, we are using the Bladeborn rules, which means if you bring the hero from that Bladeborn unit, you get to bring in the rest of the units in that warband for free without taking up any ally choices. So what have I chosen for here? I've chosen to take from Xandire's Truthseekers, Kalthia Xandire, and Dora's Giantfell. Then we're going to take Elthain Ill-Fated from Elthain's Soulraid. And then we're basically going to take the rest of the Starblood Stalkers minus Clacktrop, because Clacktrop is 10 points more expensive than Doraz, and this all makes it fit into quite a nice, actually, 1,000 point package. We've got Kixie Taka, Huachi, Otapatl, Top, and Zepik. It is an 8-man warband, which is not bad. It is kind of fast, actually. Between all of the skinks and Otapatl's free move ability, if there are no enemy fighters within 12, it can get there. It can get around the battlefield. Kixie Taka gets to boost all of this with +1 movement as well. Gets to boost all of this with +1 toughness as well. You've got a net in there. You've got extra bonus activations from Kalthia. And you've got a bit of punch from Doraz. I like it. I think it's pretty good, actually. This is probably one of the better warbands that you can build out of this box. And this is the one that I would recommend people if they were looking to build out of this box specifically. Okay, for Chaos, this time around, we have the Reavers of Ruin with the Gnarlspirit Pack, Skittershank's Clawpack, Thricefold Discord, and the Wurmspat. Starting off with the Gnarlspirit Pack, we have Sarkar Blackwing, Gaul Spinehammer, Lucan Longcut, and Crimson Kyra. These guys aren't bad, but there isn't anything really amazing about them. They're all very middling. I think the stars of the show are probably Sarkar Blackwing and Crimson Kyra. Crimson Kyra, because she's 100 points, 15 wounds, which is pretty good. She has those 5 attacks with the 1-4 damage profile. She doesn't have to worry so much about counter nowadays, because as of the September update, counter has definitely been nerfed. So she gets to run in there and she gets to crit fish as much as she wants. Sarkar Blackwing is interesting. So he's 185 points. He has Fly. So that makes him the only Slaves to Darkness hero that you can take with Fly, which is real interesting. Now, they all have the double ability Unleash, which gives them +1 move and +1 attack, and they get the Beast Remark. So someone like Crimson Kyra goes up to movement 6, 6 attacks, strength 3, 1, 4, which isn't bad at all. It is only melee attack actions, so it does work nicely with Gaul because he goes up to 4 attacks, hitting with that very good profile. They're okay, basically. That's what they are. They do have a triple called Self-Command, which is +1 toughness and +1 damage points by each hit and critical hit. So again, you can't use Unleash and Self-Command at the same time, but if you wanted to, again, with Crimson Kyra works pretty well. She's going to go up to toughness 5, and she's going to go to like a 2-5 profile with her 5 attacks. So I think there is play there. I just don't necessarily think that they are the best thing that you could bring. Even in this box, I don't think they're the best thing. I think they're fine. I think they're middling. Like I said, Crimson Kyra, Sarkar Blackwing, those are the 2 that you want to be looking at. Skaven get Skittershank's Clawpack with Slink Skittershank, Snip Pack Paw, Creepkin Whisper, Skulk, and Cratchit. Now, of all of these fighters, the one that actually sees competitive play is Creepkin Whisper. For 75 points, 10 wounds, with a decent range profile and Spitting Cobra technique is genuinely pretty good. Now, he's not the only one with Spitting Cobra technique. Skittershank also has that, so that immediately makes them actually not that bad. Skittershank has a decent enough profile, even though it's not amazing. The rest of the warband is just fine. They're not going to be doing all that much. Skittershank, like all other Skaven leaders, gets lead from the back on a triple, which is +1 attack on friendly fighters within 6 inches. So you can do things with this warband, but they kind of fall under the ability for Skaven to use their battle trait to bring people back to life, and they're all just a bunch of middling profiles with not all that much that goes to them. So I think out of this, if you're going to build with it, I say Creepkin Whisper, definitely that's your #1 priority. If you're building just out of this box, you would bring Skittershank, because to start with, he unlocks having Creepkin Whisper, because you would have to be building a Skaven warband for this, and the stats are okay. Thricefold Discord. Alright, here it is. Vexmore, Lasavir, and Vastus. This is probably the highest impact Bladeborn warband, I would say, of the last year and a little bit to come out. Vexmore basically has been everywhere in every Chaos warband because of his stat line and the ability for you to bless him up with Divine Blessings, make him 2 attacks, then he becomes a 2/10, 5/10. If you use Onslaught, he becomes a 3/10, 5/10, and he gets to squash things, and he crits really high. Their stats are all pretty good across the board. The interesting thing about them is that they all have a reaction, Triumphant Tittering. Tittering. It's a funny word. Triumphant Tittering. If another one of them dies, you get to make a reaction even if you activate it during the battle round, and you get to make a bonus move or a bonus attack action. So as one of them dies, the other ones get to move and get to do additional things. Of course, all being Stanish, they get Lithe and Swift, which gives them +3 to their move for the next move action. So that's amazing. Vastus the Coiled has a big old 6-inch AoE -1 attack bubble. So that's amazing. Lasavir has the Bladed Blessing, which is like, it's a crazy ability. -5 to the toughness characteristic of the target, and then you make a bonus attack action. So that can basically shred things with her 6 attacks. On the most part, she's basically going to be winning on 3s. So you're going to be looking at like 4 hits and a crit with that triple. So overall, they're all very good. They all do have the hero remarks. That is something to bear in mind. If you want to bring all 3 of these, that's basically all that you're bringing if you're building out of this box entirely. So with this box specifically, you're going to be bringing 1, or you're going to be bringing 2. If you're going to be bringing one of them and your playgroup is allowing Divine Blessings, then you basically bring Vexmore. If you're not, I think Vastus is a pretty good shout, because she does have that -1 AoE attack bubble, and that's generally a pretty nice thing to have. It does have a 6-inch range, so it can cover a big chunk of the battlefield for some more protection. Finally, we have the Wurmspat, Fecular Flyblown, Goldgrutch the Butcher, and Sepsimus the Plaguesworn. The Wurmspat aren't great. I mean, one of them is actually pretty good. You've got Goldgrutch the Butcher, who's very good value within a Nurgle Rotbringer warband. Because he's got like 26 wounds, he's like a 4/4/2/4 profile. He does have the Beast Remark, so that kind of limits what he can do during a game, but overall he is cheaper than most things. Sepsimus is fine, I would say. If you want to go crit fishing with his 3 attacks and crit 5, go for it, all the best. Fecular, the interesting thing about her is that she does have an ability whereby on a double she gets a free shoot action, but that thing can only be used once per game, so they're not doing amazing things, let's say. What they do get is they all do get access to the brand new Rotbringer's Double Spurting Mucus, which allows them to take damage and then push damage back onto fighters that are attacking them. So that is something interesting, at least, that they could do. And then, of course, they do have like the basic Nurgle reaction, Impossible to Wound, which is -1 damage for each hit that targets them. Overall, they're fine. They're just a blob of wounds, basically. You put them into a place, they use the double, they get hit, they reflect wounds back, they heal off of unnatural regeneration. Fecular gets to a little bit of shooting, but not all that much. Overall, if you have a Nurgle Rotbringer's warband, Goldgrutch and Butcher is definitely worth something looking at. Probably Septimus also, just to give you a little bit of variety in the different kinds of Rotbringers that you're bringing, but I would leave Fecular at home. Right, so list building with these guys. I've chosen to go with Sarakar Blackwing, Skittershank, Vexmore with the +1 attack blessing. If you cannot get the +1 attack blessing, any of the other ones will basically do. Gore, Spinehammer, Crimson Cairo, Creepkin Whisper, Skulk, and Cratchit. This gives you an 8-man warband, which is pretty decent in size. You've got that speed in there from those 3 Skaven fighters. You've got a little bit of punch from Gaul Spinehammer and Skittershank. You've got a lot of punch from Vexmore, bit of blendy from Crimson Kyra, and you've got Blackwing to kind of fly about and do things. I think overall this is a pretty balanced warband. I quite like it, actually. I quite like having that Spitting Cobra technique for that weird bit of non-direct damage, that little bit of shooting in there from Skulk, Creep, Saraka, all these guys. I think it's okay. I think this is a pretty decent warband. And I think this is one that holds up pretty well to some of the other options that we're going through. At this time, we have the Sons of Velmorn, we've got the Skinnerkin, Thorns of the Briar Queen, and the Exiled Dead all together in one box. Let's start with the Exiled Dead. Very big warband here. You've got Daintalos, Coil, Prentice Markov, Iron Bolt, Flash, and Regulus. The interesting fighters in this warband are very much the electric zombies. So Coil, Iron, Bolt, and Flash. They all get an ability called Crackling Arcs, where they get to roll a number of dice equal to the value of the ability. It's on a double. For every roll of a 5, you pick an enemy fighter within 3 inches, and then you do 1 point of damage for each friendly fighter with this ability's rune marks within 3 inches of that fighter. So, if you manage to get all 4 of them within 3 inches of a target, and you roll a double 6, for example, you're going to be rolling 6 dice, and for each roll of a 5, you're going to be doing 4 damage to that target. That's what makes them amazing. On top of that, unlike normal zombies, they have movement 4, which is great. They don't pay all that much more than normal zombies. They only pay like 10 points in most cases, 20 points in the case of Coil. They have better stats than normal zombies. They can be resurrected through Daintalos. They are amazing. The ones that people most drop are Prentice Markov and Regulus. Sometimes people keep in Regulus because he's only 55 points and he's like a 10 wound toughness or skeleton, which is fine. Some people, if you're playing in Soulblight Wraithlords, some people also don't bring Daintalos, but I think that's a mistake. I think Daintalos is great. He's really bulky for 210 points, and Daintalos has gun. Basically, it's strength 6 with a 3-6 profile, so most of the time you're going to be winning on 3s, and you're going to be doing like average 6 damage out of 2 shoot actions. 6 to 9 damage, something like that. And then if you manage to get him in a fight, he's got 2-inch range, 4-4-2-4, like a solid profile. These guys are one of the premier Blade Ball warbands for you to own in Warcry anyway, so I would definitely recommend you picking up this box if you cannot find them elsewhere. Next, we're talking about the Sons of Velmorn. You got King Morlach, Jerdran, Thane, Marshal Falk, and Helmar the Hewer. This is the old best Bladeborn warband in the game since after the Exiled Dead came out, but they're still pretty good. For most of the time, you're going to be running King Morlach, Thane, Falk, and Helmar. People like to keep Jerdran at home, but I think for 150 points for the toughest skeleton in the game, I think he's alright. They are all very reasonably priced for what they do. They all get very good, I say they all, Thane, Falk, and Helmar all get a very good ability, Sibling Rivalry on a double. So if any of the other ones has made an attack action, that fighter's going to get +2 to the attack's characteristic of melee attack actions. So it's like Onslaught, where you give up some of your activation advantage because you need another person to activate first, but you get 2 attacks instead of 1. So it's really good. Fantastic as an ability. Something I didn't mention with the Exiled Dead is that they all get Shambling Horde. If they're within 6 inches of a visible Soulblight Wraithlord's hero, they get to make a bonus move action up to the range of the ability. So despite only being movement free, because you have the 3 minions in there, they get to use that and they get to where they want to go a lot more quickly. So that's really what makes them good. An interesting thing about Jerdran, he does have the ability to guard King Morlach to make him untargetable. It is worth knowing that targeting in Warcry is a very specific thing that you only do during attack actions. So he can still be hit by things like AoE, he can still be hit by abilities that don't target, but if it mentions targeting, Jerdran can make sure that Morlach doesn't get hit. I famously use this to great effect to stop Morlach from getting hit by an Ogre Breacher, and then Morlach turned around and punched him to death. Like the electric zombies, King Morlach does have summon undead minions, so he gets to bring back Thane, Falk, Helmar. So all in all, between those 2 warbands, you could probably smash them together and make a very good Soulblight warband in its own right. And that's probably what we're going to be doing when we look at them at the end of this section. Thorns of the Briar Queen. You get the Briar Queen herself. Varclav, the Everhanged, and then Chain Rasp. You can bring up to 4 Thorns of the Briar Queen Chain Rasps in your warband instead of only just 1. Now, these are Nighthaunt. They do not have the movement 6 of normal Nighthaunt. Instead, they get movement 5, and they're a little bit more bulky in some places. Overall, you're really going to be bringing this for the Queen specifically. She is the only toughness 5 Nighthaunt model. She does have 22 wounds, which is a very good number when it comes to things like wounds brackets and the amount of damage that things can do. She's got a decent enough raised attack. It's only strength 3. You can bless it up with attack blessings, but it's got 2/5 crit damage. The main thing about this, though, is that she has Spectral Summon, which is the Nighthaunt version of Resurrect, and that allows you to resurrect any fighter on the battlefield, not just dead minions as per with the Soulblight Gravelord one. So this is really why we bring Nighthaunt heroes as allies, get access to that Omni Resurrect to be able to bring back your other heroes, to be able to bring back your thralls, all these kind of things that the normal Soulblight Resurrects cannot do. On top of that, it is very worth noting that she has one of the better triples, I think, in the entire faction. It's Howling Vortex. You pick a guy within 9, you roll a bunch of dice. For each 4 or more, you do 3 damage. And then on top of that, for each 4 or more, you're going to be minusing 1 from the move characteristic of that fighter until the end of their activation. So I've used this to make things like Kernoth Huntmaster's movement 1. I've used this to make Mega Boss's movement 1. It's really easy because they only start with movement 3 in the first place. So it's a very nice piece of control that you don't otherwise see in your Underworlds warbands or in Warcry in general. A nice piece of control linked to a damaging ability. Some other fighters of note in this warband, I think Varklav the Cruel is okay for 100 points. I like the 16 wounds. I think that's all right. The Chain Rasp are a side grade from normal Chain Rasp. They get like an extra attack, but they lose a point of movement. Which one you want really depends on you. Personally, I would go for the movement of the other Chain Rasp. They do have the minion remark, which allows them to use Chilling Horde, which is actually okay. If there's another visible minion within 3 inches, they get +1 attack and +1 strength. So those Falls on the Briar Queen Chain Rasp are going to go up to 4 attacks at strength 4. So suddenly, then they can start to do things. It is a double, which is okay. If you wanted to build the core of a warband from this, I would recommend just going to Briar Queen and a bunch of Chain Rasps. They have fly. They can do their thing. Finally, for death, the Skinnerkin. I've been saying that these guys, this is the warband. If you're building Flesh Eater Courts, this is the warband that you want to base your warband out of. It's got Gristler Tenderhook, the Karnskir, Kretch, Pudrig, and Cedric the Chain. Why do you want to build your warband out of this? They have an amazing, amazing ability, Get Out My Larder, where they all have access to it. You pick another Skinnerkin that hasn't activated this battle round. You both get a bonus move action up to the value of this ability, and then you don't have to, but you can activate that fighter immediately after this fighter's activation ends. So what you get to do is you get to say, activate Cedric the Chain, use the ability, get your move, attack. The other guy gets his free move. They get to activate immediately after. They get to attack. If you really wanted to and you had more doubles, you can kind of chain your activations. So that's why the amount of bonus activation advantage you can get out of this warband is wild. And that's why I think this is one of the better warbands in the game, especially in death. On top of that, they have their own reaction back to the kitchens. It's slippery. It's what Hunters of Hornsey have, and I love the slippery reaction. It allows you to do so many things. People run into you, they attack, you slippery away, you've just wasted their additional attack action if they start in base contact with you. Like, it has a lot of applications. They do have that in addition to their Baffling Parley, which is -1 attack if anyone tries to attack you. So they are unusually tanky for what they are. If you're going to bring these and you like to play with Divine Blessings, I would recommend buffing up Kretch, Pudrig, and Chain, all with +4 wounds. Then they go to 12 wounds. That's a very good number to be able to use your Back to the Kitchens reaction with and your Baffling Parley. Gristler Tenderhook does have some other things going for her. Her stat line isn't bad. Like, it's really not bad for 160 points. They all have an ability whereby if they kill someone, they get to put down a Banquet token that heals. Precise Filleting is a quad. Basically, the next melee attack action that you do always crits on a 3. Now, she has 4 attacks, so probably you're going to be looking at 3 hits, which is around about 12 damage. It's not bad. It's okay. I think if you're going to bring this, you bring Gristler, Pudrig, and Cedric, and Kretch. The Karnskir is fine. It's average. It's 120 points, which is a bit more on the expensive side for that 10 wounds. Total movement 7, which isn't bad. Its stat profile isn't bad. But I think if you're going to be building a warband out of these, those other 4 are the ones that you want. Okay, There are only 6 fighters here, but if you're building out of this box, this is the core that you want. You want Dauntelos and all of his zombies, and you want the Briar Queen because she gets to bring back your heroes. This comes to 855 points. So on top of that, you can either go into the Skinnerkin or you can go into the Sons of Velmorn. Just bring like the leader and the chaff from either of those two, and you'll be very well suited to have a very strong warband, basically regardless. I would say the kind of warband that you can build out of this box, this is competitively viable. You could totally bring it to an event and expect to go at least 3-1, just out of the power of the electric zombies and just the generic quality that you get out of Soulblade Greatlords. Last up, we have the Destruction Box, Gitz and Goliaths. It's got Hrothgorn's Mantrappers, Rippaz Snarlfangs, Mollog's Mob, and Zarbag's Gitz. Start off, let's go Hrothgorn Mantrappers. In the past, Hrothgorn has been one of the better destruction allies. Normally you're going to be bringing Hrothgorn with Quiv, and you're going to be bringing him with Bushwhacker. The reason why Hrothgorn is so good is because of that range attack. It's got a 9-inch range, strength 6, so it's mostly going to be winning on 3s, and it's got a 4-8 damage profile. On top of that, he has the generic Ogre Double, Might Makes Right, which allows him to, if he has killed a guy, he gets to use a double to make a bonus attack action or bonus move action. So generally what he's going to be doing is picking a guy within 9 inches, throwing 4 dice into them, usually killing them, rolling his double, and then shooting again at something else. You can compound this through Quiv. Quiv has a triple that allows Hrothgorn to make an additional shoot action. So between the two of them, if you're going to bring them as a package, you're going to bring Hrothgorn and Quiv. Most of the time, they will be boosted by Bushwhacker. Why is this? Because Bushwhacker is only 55 points, and on top of that, he's got a very good double lane man trap. It's almost unique in Warcry, actually, where you put the token on the battlefield floor, and then if anyone moves within 1 inch of that marker, you're going to do 2d6 damage. So you're going to do average 7 damage just on your double. You only get to use it once, but I think for 55 points, that's kind of this weird throwaway character that you can kind of move around and you can put things down, control areas in the battlefield, is very good. The other fighters in this warband are Thrafnir and Luggett and Thank. You basically never see them because the other 3 fighters in the warband are so good. Technically speaking, Luggett and Thwack have a decent profile for 65 points. They got 12 wounds, which is nice. Their stats are fine. You're basically buying 65 points worth of wounds. You fight Gitz, get access to Mollog's Mob. You get Mollog the Mighty and Batsquig. All the rest of these models that you can see here are basically just tokens for Mollog's abilities. Let's talk about Mollog's abilities. He's got Hurl Jabbertoad, which on a double, pick a guy within 6 inches, roll a couple of dice, you get to do damage. So not amazing. His 2 real abilities of note are Summon Stalagdsquig and Summon Spiteflume. The Stalagdsquig is a token that you put down onto the floor, very much like Sneaky Traps that we've just seen. Allocate 2d6 inches to fight them within an inch. So 7 damage, only once per battle. So it's very much the same kind of ability. Area control, area denial, that kind of thing. Summon Spiteflume is really interesting though. It is, you use it, you put the marker down, and it's -1 attacks for all enemy fighters within 6 inches of a straight Spiteflume marker. You can't get rid of the marker, so unlike some of these other abilities that we've seen, it's just always on, and it's just -1 attack. So I think like that ability is what makes Mollog very good. Let's not forget the fact, of course, that he has Toughness 5 and 35 wounds, so he's going to stick around a while. And if you're using Divine Blessings, bless him up with an additional attack. Much like Vexmore, he goes to a 3, 6, 5, 10, which is a wild profile. He does go to like 330 points, but I think that's fine. He comes with the Batsquig, which I think is expensive for 170 points. The reason why it's expensive is because he does have the Fly Rune mark, only having movement 6. I would have liked his movement to be a little bit longer. But what does he bring to the party? A 4, 5, 2, 4 damage profile, which generally isn't all that bad. He doesn't have any interesting abilities of his own, so he's kind of just there to be this weird, fast, get-in-the-way fighter. But I think 170 points, he's too expensive for that. Rippaz Snarlfangs have Ripper Not Bad, Mean Eye, and Stabbit. They are okay. I mean, they're cavalry. So they suffer from the classic problems that cavalry suffer from in Warcry, meaning they can't climb, they find it hard to get around the battlefield, they have to use all of that extra movement that they have to move around things instead of trying to go over them. But what do they actually have in terms of abilities? They have Snarlfangs Jaws, so again, roll 2 dice, bunch of damage, and they have as a quad Ferocious Pounce, which again allows them to do a bunch of damage. I think they're not that good. I think this is probably the least appealing warband in this box set. I think that the basic Wolf Riders that Goblins have recently got, and the better Wolf Riders that they have, the double wolves, I can't remember what they're called, Snarlfang Cavalry, that's it. I think they're better than these guys. So I wouldn't necessarily be looking to take them if I was building my lists. Finally, for destruction, Zarbag skits. You get Zarbag, you get Snark, Drizgit the Squig Herder, Prog the Netter, Zarbag's Shooters, which you can bring up to 3 times, and Zarbag's Squig, which you can bring up to twice. You can build a full warband out of this. The question is, would I? Probably no is the answer. I think that you can do things like allying Hrothgorn and his guys, which will make it a much stronger and more resilient warband to begin with. But there are some interesting things that we got going on here. You got Zarbag, who is a wizard, 125 points for stat line isn't bad. Snark is actually pretty good. Despite the 10 wounds, a 4-4-3-6 profile at range 3 is very good. So that's definitely something that you guys would want to look at. Of course, you have Prog the Netter, who is a 10 wound net, which again, something very good, something very appealing that you could bring. The Squigs are fine. I think they're overpriced. The Shooters are basically shooters with 10 wounds, as opposed to like the 6 wounds of normal shooters. But I think those 20 points that you're paying, 20 points, 30 points, something like that, for shooters over normal shooters, I don't think they're necessarily worthwhile. What abilities do they have? Now, Zarbag has the Face of the Bad Moon. You force a guy to make a disengage action, which is actually a very interesting ability, because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be forcing your opponent to waste actions. So you get a guy to disengage, he then has to move and then attack one of your guys, which cuts the amount of attack actions that he's putting into you by half. If they can't disengage, it's just a flat d6 damage. So I think that's actually pretty good. We talked about Prog. Prog has net. Snurk Sourtongue, being a fanatic, has on a big old quad allocate a bunch of damage. The Squig Herder, Drizgit, the Squig Herder can get Squigs, can give them bonus move actions, but I don't think that's really where we're going to be going with this. I think if we're going to be bringing them, we're going to be bringing Gitz, we're going to be basing this around Zarbag, Snurk, and Prog the Netter. Probably we're going to be using Zarbag's Gitz shooters as normal shooters, because they did get that buff in September, and then we're going to be allying in other things from this warband. Alright, so how do we build out of this? This probably isn't the best warband that you can build out of all this stuff, but I definitely think it's interesting and it's got some play to it. We're going to play Hrothgorn, we're going to play Mollog, Snark, Prog, Quiv, use one of Zarbag's Gitz shooters as a normal shooter, and then we're going to run Bushwhacker. It's a 7-man warband, which means we have space if we're running Divine Blessings to give Mollog that +1 attack that we want. It gives a very big anchor piece with Mollog, some over-the-top shooting with Hrothgorn Mantrapper, then all of the other tricks that we've seen. We've got 2 instances of the sneaky traps off of both Mollog the Mighty and Bushwhacker, so I think it's got play. If your opponent cannot deal with the Ogre and the Troll, they're going to have problems. You do need to protect your Goblins, though, because they will die. Despite Prog the Netter and Snark Sourtongue both having 10 wounds, they will basically die eventually, so you need to keep an eye on them. Quiv wants to stick to Hrothgorn. Bushwhacker can go out, throwing his trap out, and then hiding behind a tree for the rest of the game. So, out of all of these, which is the box I would recommend the most? Definitely Morbid Minions. I think Morbid Minions has the most going for it, because you do get the Sons of Velmorn, you do get the Exiled Dead in there, you get the Briar Queen, who's one of the better Nighthaunt heroes, and if you ever wanted to play Flesh Eater Quads, you got the Skinnerkin in there for that. So I think they definitely stand out as the #1 warband in here. I would recommend Reavers of Ruin, but out of all of that, it's only really the Thricefold Discord and 1 fighter that you want. So I think in second place, we probably want to go with Seekers in Shadow. You do get Calthea Xandire and the Starblood Stalkers, who between them can make very effective allies and very effective warbands. Third place, I'd probably go the Destruction Warband Gitz and Goliaths, just because you've got Hrothgorn in there, and Mollog has seen a brand new resurgence since the last updates, so we got that. And then in last place, because the entire box is really being held up by Vexmore, I'd say Reavers of Ruin.